Steve Carrell recently hosted Saturday Night Live for the third time. And my wife and I have been watching the videos, catching up online on YouTube. And there's this fake commercial for Amazon. Jeff Bezos, I guess is his name, the CEO. I mean, he's one of the richest men on the planet. And he's bald, shaves his head, completely no hair, just cue ball, completely shaved head. One of the richest, most powerful men in the world. And Steve Carrell plays him in this fake Amazon commercial. And he makes the whole shtick of this video on Saturday Night Live that he makes is it's him being passive aggressive, like basically making attacks at President Trump. And so he's talking about his drones, Jeff is talking about his drones, and how he now is putting hair on them to make them seem more human. And it looks like Donald Trump's hair. And then he makes a side comment, Jeff does, and says, he says something to the effect of, because a real man would just shave it off when he starts to lose it anyway. Implying that we all know Donald Trump had hair transplants in the 70s, back when it was like scary and painful, which is why he has to have his hair a certain length and combed a certain way, because Donald Trump is actually bald right here. That's where they took the hair to put on top of his head. So that's why when he pulls his hairline's fine, and that's his real hair, but the hair you see on Donald Trump here is actually from back here, which there's a video online of when, with a helicopter, where it blew one of his flaps open and you can see it. And that also is why he had those Make America Great caps on whenever he was on a helicopter, to try to prevent that from happening. But there was one where it didn't hide that. But anyway, in this fake Amazon commercial, which I need to put a link to so you can actually watch it, Steve Carrell, playing Jeff Bezos, says that about Trump, that a real man would just shave it off, because Jeff did do that. And he's noticeably bald, confident man. I'm sure he doesn't care about being bald, because he's one of the most powerful men and most richest men in the world. But the irony of all of this is Steve Carrell. Steve Carrell, who plays Jeff Bezos, however you say it, in response to Donald Trump. Because Steve Carrell had a hair transplant. And that's not to say he shouldn't have, or I look down on him for, no, I think still, I can't imagine what it would be like to be an actor and knowing that my career would go in better places if I would get a hair transplant. And that was a situation that he was in. When he was on The Office season 1, Steve Carell, he had more of a receding hairline. And basically after that, he started combing it, fixing his hair different, but he also had a different hairline. He got a hair transplant after the first season of The Office. And that was when his movie career also was starting to take off too. So he got a hair transplant. So imagine Steve Carell, who's had a hair transplant, pretending to be a bald man who lost his hair, saying that Donald Trump isn't a real man because he didn't shave his hair off, when Steve Carell himself got a hair transplant. There's irony in there. Again, if I was in Steve Carell's situation, who's to say that I wouldn't get a hair transplant if it meant that? I mean, I'm trying to be compassionate, thinking that if you're a man who's pushing 40 and starting to lose your hair, and your career's finally starting to take off, that maybe you'd be in the same situation. For Chris Pratt, Star-Lord on Guardians of the Galaxy. He's what, a year older than me. Hair transplant was what we believe. Well, what if he would have begun balding more obviously, and he didn't have such a... So I think Hollywood actors have more pressure when it comes to hair loss. While many of them truly that's their hair. And like even Tom Cruise, I've believed most of the time that is his real hair, but then there's other people saying, well, he had a really good person in Hollywood. He's one of the richest actors in the United States. He can afford the best. And because I always go back to the movie Born on the 4th of July, which is one of my favorite war movies. And in that movie, which Tom Cruise would have been, what, in his mid-20s, and he had a hairline like I have now in that movie. You know, some people say, well, it's because he was playing a guy in real life who had that hairline. But I think, did it really matter that much that to be a guy playing a guy in his 20s that he had to have a hairline so severe, when Tom Cruise, now in his 50s, still has just perfection, perfect hairline, which I've made a video talking about how a perfect hairline doesn't actually exist. So there's got to be a lot of pressure for male actors that are starting to make it right as they're starting to have more aggressive hair loss, which typically often is common. Even if you make it till you're 30, till you're 35, that's when things really start to come unhinged. You know, I'm 37 and a half, I'm 2.5 years past that, but then again, I have to have my hair a certain length to keep it from being obvious. So there you go. What are your thoughts on that? Let's talk more about it if you'd like. Comments right here.